You ready? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for being a little bit late. Like Coach Altman you guys got to hear him speak. Just preparation ran a little bit over time, but again, thank you for being here. Obviously, coming off of a disappointing loss, and right back to work. It's what we do. It's our approach, and start off with a good practice yesterday, and full throttle on preparations for the week right now. So that being said, questions.
James Crepea, the Oregonian.
Mario, first the status on several guys, CJ and Nick, who went down during the game, Jamal, Daywood, and Manning, who weren't available during it, the status of those 5 guys.
Okay, CJ, we feel will be okay. He got dinged up during the game a little bit. Mike is now back. We got him back. We had him available late Friday, so that's why he wasn't part of the game, but he is good to go. And again, it's nothing he ever did wrong. It was just part of not being available. We feel Cam is coming along, feel like he's practicing well, so he's in the mix. I know he didn't play in the game, but he is coming along, and we expect him to continue to come along and hopefully play more. Spencer Webb is practicing this week, practiced yesterday, and we're very hopeful that he's going to be available for this game. We feel the same about Nick Pickett, got dinged up during the game, but we expect him to be back. Jamal Hill is practicing in full go. Drew Mathis, we're waiting on word again. Another guy that got injured during the game, but still waiting. Adrian Jackson, that might be a little bit over a week. He might be out for a little bit over a week. But I think that was the list, unless I'm missing somebody.
Ryan Thorburn, the register guard.
Mario, when you guys finally got together for fall camp, were there things about the defense that concerned you, or have you been kind of surprised that they've struggled so much on that side of the ball? And with only 2 games left in the regular season, is there time to dramatically fix some of those things?
We believe so, and we believe that our only concern in a late start of the timing of everything was not being able to spend a lot of time on technique and fundamentals. And when I say a lot of time, I'm talking about an entire offseason and everything that leads into a season. So I get it. We haven't been to the level that we expected of ourselves. There's no sugarcoating that, but there's also no finger pointing. We've got to coach it better. We've got to provide better technique and fundamental teaching progressions, and give ourselves an opportunity to play better. And I think that there's a very clear understanding. I think there's an awareness of that, and I think there'll be a greater sense of urgency by understanding that, obviously it hurt us, but we win and we lose as a team. We could have been better across the board, a lot of different areas. So, and we're committed to making sure that we do get better.
Julian Minnesota, KZI.
Mario, you talked about a sense of urgency. Did you see that response from the guys in practice? And if so, who kind of takes ownership there at practice when it comes to the student athletes? Is it the upperclassmen or vocal leaders by example? What's kind of that dynamic following a loss?
Well, the entire team has to take it. There is no – if you start pointing out a group that has to take accountability, I think you are finger pointing. So it falls on everybody. That's always going to be our approach. When things go well, when things don't go well, obviously they didn't, but it's going to be on all of us. And that's the only way that we're going to approach it.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
What do these next couple of days mean for you guys in terms of getting this ship, I guess, righted? And I guess what kind of conversations do you have with the guys during the next couple of days about making sure it is in the right place?
Yeah, the conversations are just being real. There's no sugarcoating it. And our guys don't expect that from us. And we wouldn't expect that from them either. It's real. It's putting, at the end of the day, you put your resume on tape, right? And the things on tape that must be attacked and corrected, because that's what football is. Football is a developmental game. And even throughout the course of the season, sometimes it might look really bad, but you're also pretty close to making it look really good. And in some instances, you're not. You've got to have drastic improvement. So that being said, it's a full force, full throttle, approach to rectifying the issues that we have had in all phases, offense, defense, and special teams.
Tyson Alger, The Athletic.
When you guys have such a short season, just like how hard is it to get a player like a Micah back up to speed when there's just so little time to bring him back, like implement him into that? And just specifically with Micah too, with how much he missed last season, and then just now with something out of control, like How's he doing?
He's great. He's an awesome competitor. I just think being dropped in hours, really, 14, 16 hours before a game after being away for 2 weeks, he stayed in great shape. He certainly did everything humanly possible to be physically prepared. You just haven't aligned and run through plays with your team, especially in the passing game with the quarterbacks, or understand the angles and how to perimeter block and everything that goes with it. So it is not of his, Mike Forrest has been a starter and been a great player. So we're confident with a full week of work, he'll pick up right where he left off.
AJ Jacobson, Rivals.
Coach, looking at the last 2 weeks on the run defense, the effort was there, but the efficiency was not. And here you got another team that runs the ball pretty well coming up. What do you guys have to do to shore up the run defense?
Yeah, there is some really good effort, and and when I say inconsistencies, I'm always gonna, I know it sounds redundant, but it's gonna be the same message. We got to coach it and teach it, and then play it better together. Technique and fundamentals have really got to improve, right? The way you come off the football, the way you strike your blockers, right? The way you maintain gap control. All the things that go with playing great run defense that we have done before they've got to be rectified. Okay. And that's a holistic approach, because all the pieces work together. Okay. If you are out of your gap and you are not made right by, a second or third level defender, that's when big plays happen. And that's what, obviously, you guys are football guys. You guys have seen it on film. So those are things that we're addressing against a team that, watched them play this last week, and they played with a couple new offensive linemen. They run the football great. They do a great job using their tight ends, with pin and pull schemes, with zone schemes. They did a great job running the ball this past week, and they are a tough physical bunch. So our improvement, all right, has got to be real, and it's got to show up on Saturday for us to be successful.
James Crapiat.
Following up on that, Mario, no tackles for loss or sacks from the interior defensive line outside of one from Christian. When you had two seniors coming back in those spots, and who talked about trying to show they were more accomplished pass rushers, how much of this is surprising, frustrating, that production hasn't been there?
Well, I don't know. I think when you ask a question like that, and I don't know, words like surprising and frustrating, they're not going to be words I use to describe our team or how I feel about our players. The words that are very, I think, clear, which you guys have mentioned and have said, and I respectfully reiterate, is that we have got to improve. That's as clear as the day is long, and we know that. And those are areas that it has to show for us to be successful. And so it's one thing about those particular things, because that world, that you have to be about that life, right? If you're playing inside in the trenches, you can't talk your way into being better, right? You can't, hope that you're going to show up better the next week. You've got to work that into existence at a very high level, and it starts with practice. So that's what the focus and the commitment or recommitment is on, and because that's the only way to take a step in the direction we want to go.
Ryan Thorburn.
Mario, I don't think you guys had lost in over a calendar year. How did this team respond to that loss, and how much does it help from a motivational sense to have the Pac-12 championship still a possibility this year?
Well, again, we don't lose very much around here, and that's something that needs to be traditional. So when it does happen, and when that did happen, it's obvious. I mean, you see it on my face. I mean, I'm as upset and that needs to always be that way. If I don't feel that way, I need to step aside. It's got to burn in your gut. And it also has to provide the right kind of fuel, because I think, there's two ways to handle a loss. Either you wallow in, your own, feeling sorry for yourself, or you realize that I control what happens going forward. You always give credit to the other team. I respect football too much to ever just say, oh, it's all our fault. You got to give credit to the other team. I don't care if it's a rivalry game. I don't care if it's any game. And you do that, and then you realize, what could I have done better to have gotten a different result? And what I mean better is the process itself. So that's the focus. That's just insight on how we think. That's how I think. No magic, hocus pocus, no taglines, no nonsense stuff. It's just football. Football requires nothing but your very best, especially in a conference that has as much parity as we have.
Matt Preem, 247 Sports.
Mario, a couple times this season, happened late against Oregon State. The D-line is lined up a yard or so behind the line of scrimmage. I guess, what's the strategy behind that? What's the process that you gain by lining up a little bit further back than we traditionally see along the D-line, or is that a mistake?
Well, sometimes it's tied in a scheme. Sometimes it's off. Sometimes it's too deep, right? But there's a little bit of everything. I don't want to get into schematics and give certain things away, but there's a little bit of both.
Kevin Wade, 247 Sports.
In a normal year, this week would be the start of the contact period. You'd be out on the road recruiting. How has that changed where you're still playing games into December, into the week before the December signing day?
Just a different year. You got to roll with the punches. Signing day is a couple weeks away. Still a lot of season to play. It's different. It's different, but it doesn't change your effort or your time invested in both football and in recruiting. So it's just go time.
Eric School.
All right, tackling in the open field, it seems like continues to be a shortcoming or a problem. Is that something you can rectify in practice? Do you change what you're doing? Are you getting enough live tackling in? And how easily correctable is that?
Well, it's something that I don't think you ever get enough work on, especially in a shortened preseason. So, and you throw it in there in practice. You try to do as much thud work, real thud work. You don't want to tackle your first team on first team and whatnot, but you do incorporate your tackling drills where you are tackling and doing tackling drills and tackling circuits with as much full speed action as you possibly can, because you got to be able to track ball carriers, right? You got to track near hips, you got to get your head across, or you got to be able to rugby tackle and clamp and roll, swipe when you need to, right? Run your feet through a tackle to make sure that you do, kill the momentum of the ball carrier. And we do work on all those things.
Jason Alger.
What have your interactions been in just communication with parents and families this year, with them not being allowed to come to games and generally being able to, see their kids on the sideline? I was just thinking, like in Noah's instance where he was carted off the field and his parents aren't here. Just what's communication with families been like?
Well, in terms of whenever there's an injury, our medical staff is immediately on the phone with families just to let them know the extent or how non-serious an injury is, to put them at ease. That's the most important thing. I think it's very difficult for the parents. It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody not being able to see their families. It's not, especially when, that's what they're so used to, right? We're all used to that, but we appreciate the cooperation, because if you don't follow protocol, the team, the organization is going to pay the price. All it takes is, one visitation that's not right, that's not allowed or coordinated, and all of a sudden, there could be an issue, and there could be someone getting sick or whatnot. So it's everyone has to make a sacrifice, and it's worth it, because we've been able to keep our team playing week in and week out, and they deserve that. They do. For a lot of these guys, it's their last season, and they deserve to play a full season and not be hampered by or derailed by issues.
James.
Mario, you talked about the offense expanding each week, and it did again this past week with more 10 personnel than you guys, I think, had played combined the prior 3 weeks. Just how important was that? Not just because it provided certain schematic advantages, certainly results, but also with Micah coming back, that could reconfigure things at the receiver position a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're excited about, the offensive personnel. And, every single week you try to identify what gives you the best chance to move the ball and score points. Try to be balanced as best possible, but if something is being completely taken away due to numbers or leverage, is take advantage of the other side. the throw or the run. So I think again, Mike is a great player, and Mike is a huge part of this offense. So between him, the increased use of, we got to get our tight ends more involved as well. Continue to play more backs. There's just we're only averaging 60 plus plays a game. We thought we'd be in the 80 plus range, and I think that also adds a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities for a lot of guys. We need to get to that point to continue to get the ball spread around and get more guys on the field, because a lot of guys have worked hard, deserve to play. They've shown in practice that they're going to help us win ball games, score more points.
Gary Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Yeah, Coach. So the two critical drives, when you couldn't get a first down and then Oregon State moves down pretty quickly. You said your preparation was great during the week. Everybody's, I assume, are playing 100%. Coaches are 100%. Do you see anything that you would have done differently, that you could have done differently in those critical series that would have made a difference?
Done differently in terms of what, calling a different play, different personnel group? Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Well,
because I know the effort. I assume the effort was there. The coaches,
the effort was there. I think they made a play. We on first down, if we got a hat on the safety, it's a big run. It's a big run, and now they're forced to use 3 timeouts. It's going to be a lot less time on the clock. And at the very worst, if they successfully stop you on 3 downs, they get the ball back with 40-some seconds at best, deep in their territory, because you move the ball some more. We saw some other things during the game that, we felt and have worked throughout the course of the game the last couple of weeks that we could take advantage of, and it didn't work out, But do we second guess the play that was actually called and the way the attempt and the effort behind the execution of it? It's you got to give them credit. They made a play. You'd love to be in a perfect play, and we didn't get it, so you got to own it. But no regrets.
AJ.
Coach, you may have touched on this partially already, but how would you characterize the mood of the team heading into this game against Cal?
I think hungry, because a team that's when a team takes it as hard as we do, the very best thing you could do as a leader is be very direct and honest. I felt as a player, the worst thing a coach ever did was try to turn the page right away and just kind of turn a blind eye to the fact that you haven't played your very best. Okay. And so we took a deep dive into the game and into our entire team, whenever we feel something's not, we're not playing to the best of our ability, we do that. And when that was done, just the ability, and I'm extremely proud of our players to be able to look at themselves, look at each other, for the coaches, look at themselves, each other, everyone eye to eye, and acknowledge that we can be and need to be a whole lot better. And then translate that to yesterday's practice. Well, now what I'm going to be watching for, what does Tuesday practice look like? And assess it at the end. What does Wednesday's practice look like? Right. And same thing, assess it at the end. Because I do see a motivated and hungry team that knows it has a lot to prove and wants to play like it has a lot to prove. And I think with so many young guys, they're understanding that more and more and more as the season goes on. So to say that I greatly anticipate tomorrow's practice and how eager I am to get out there is an understatement. We got to get on the field. We got to go to work.
Last question goes to Matt Preem.
All right, you mentioned getting more plays for this offense. Turnovers has probably played a big factor in that. What can you do, whether it's interceptions or fumbles, to, I guess, eliminate that in the frequency of those turnovers to get you those more plays?
Well, we talking about offensively turning it over.
Yeah.
That is one of the more disappointing things. We've been really good about not turning the ball over here for a couple of years, and this year we've gotten careless. And when I say careless, not from an effort standpoint, but high and tight is high and tight, right? And equal claw on that thing means that thing doesn't come out. If I could run through the tape with you and show you the details that led to those turnovers, you'd be like, wow, you're looking at another step, another angle, a squeezing of the ball away from not turning it over at all, an angle of a slider on a inside zone split play that knocks off the center and then hits the running back. There's the things that have caused it are all not effort-oriented, mental effort-oriented, detail-oriented, that can and will be eliminated with work and more effort, more attention to detail. So those things are are frustrating. They're disappointing. They make you, and our players are upset about it. And the same thing as everything else we've talked about. You've got to attack it in practice. And again, you can't shy away from the fact that it ain't good enough, right? I mean, we're all very honest with each other. We've always been when we get on here and talk. It isn't good enough, and I got to do a better job making sure that gets done consistently.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good day.